Hello there. This is where the fun begins.
What's up, guys? Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and in this video I wanted to take a moment and really discuss the actors' SAG-AFTRA strike now being over, and more specifics on how this actually impacts the Star Wars franchise as a whole, going forward and moving forward with the Star Wars franchise, projects, shows, movies, and everything in between. That's exactly what we are going to be discussing in this video. We are going to go ahead, we're going to hop right on into it. If you guys didn't already see here on the channel, I had just like an in general overview video discussing the actors strike now being over and kind of what that more in those regards means overall for just Hollywood in general. I didn't really discuss too much into the specifics of the actual Star Wars franchise as per se, our channel, Star Wars, unofficial Star Wars of course, and within how that actually is going to affect the Star Wars franchise moving forward. It wasn't something I really discussed all that much until the end of that video. So this here all being said, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. In this video we are going to be taking a read from StarWarsNewsNet.com. I'll have their article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. As a read, Hollywood's big 2023 labor nightmare has come to an end as the SAG-AFTRA has announced on Tuesday evening that the negotiating committee has approved a tentative deal for a new 3-year contract with the big Hollywood studios and has lifted the strike mandate as of 12:01 a.m. PT on Thursday. So as of this posting, actors are no longer on strike and are allowed to resume their duties, their work of actual acting, from participating in casting calls to actual filming for shows and movies to promoting them. We discuss everything here and how this is going to impact Star Wars specifically. Details on the new contract are scarce at the moment, but the union has confirmed it's valued over $1 billion and includes above pattern minimum compensation increases and unprecedented protections against artificial intelligence, AI, and also establishes a streaming participation bonus strategy for members, all by which we discussed in our overview video here on the channel already. The deal will go on to Friday to the National Board to be approved and really solidify everything, after which point it will be made public and sent out to the membership for overall approval. This has big implications for the industry and the Los Angeles economy in general, which has taken a hit of over $6 billion this year alone, not just from the actors but also from the writers and their strike as well. It's not just actors and writers who are out of work, but restaurant owners saw their attendance numbers dip, and below the line workers like set designers, makeup artists, and electricians had no paychecks either, because without the writers, nothing's happening, and without the actors, nothing's happening. It's a sad reality, but one that needs to kind of happen to really move forward, that nobody really wanted to acknowledge on either side. IATSE and Teamsters, who represent these workers, will go through similar negotiations next year and reworking things, but they aren't necessarily on strike. We could theoretically be looking at another labor dispute 6 months from now, but hopefully that won't be the case. However, we're here to focus on Star Wars, as I had mentioned, so assuming that the AITSE and Teamsters do not go on their strike next year, fingers crossed that isn't the case, there's time to prevent it. Here are some of the implications that the end of the actor strike will have for Lucasfilm Productions. The short-term implications for Star Wars, well, let's first list them. We'll talk about projects for which of the ending of the strike will have immediate consequences. They are most likely candidates for shows where the talent involved will be receiving a lot of phone calls from Lucasfilm and the producers over the next few days to start planning their return to work, be it right before or right after the holiday break with Thanksgiving. That being said, Andor Season 2, Tony Gilroy's Andor, has been one of the most affected projects by both the writers and actors strikes. Tony Gilroy, as a showrunner, left the set in May of this year, shortly after the WGA strike was announced, as a writer, although filming continued as usual in the UK, with the non-SAG-AFTRA actors as well. However, when the SAG-AFTRA strike was announced in July, the crews were forced to go home with 4 to 6 weeks left of filming, and so, now that they're allowed back to work, they can finish their shooting. However, since we are in November now, a couple of weeks away from Thanksgiving and Christmas, the overall holidays is just also around the corner, it wouldn't be surprising if they decided to wait until January or February to resume their filming and production. That way they can really get their heads on. The crew must have been working on post-production these past few months at the very least, editing and adding visual and sound effects to the hours of footage that they had managed to actually film and get since late November of last year. It's possible that they could use these few weeks before they set up the production once again to do additional recordings that they may need to improve some audio or perhaps even voice CG creatures, not that Andor has a ton of those anyway. The new season had announced on August of 2024, next year, as a release window, very similar to its Season 1, releasing in August. But by now, Lucasfilm and Disney must have backup plans, although they very well could keep that August release. It seems very unlikely, though, that they will be able to meet that release date. A late 2024 or early 2025 date seems much more feasible. And so, moving on, The Mandalorian Season 4. Production on the 4th season of The Mandalorian was initially planned to start in October of this year, just last month. The scripts were already ready back in May of this year, and the team was deep in pre-production, but the WGA strike set them off slightly, as Jon Favreau, being the showrunner, a writer, couldn't really actively participate in the process per strike rules. It's unknown if the rest of the team continued without his supervision on the pre-production status, or if they stopped it altogether, but we're going to go ahead and assume that they stopped it altogether. But the announcement of the SAG-AFTRA strike was the final nail in the coffin for the original shooting schedule anyway. Favreau and his team have been able to move forward with pre-production this past month, and are already up and running as the writers had finished their strike, at least on everything that didn't involve the actors. We expect filming to begin early next year, perhaps around February, maybe January, to give the crew some time to rest during Christmas. Now that the actors are allowed back to work, they can do costume and camera tests, which is going to be awesome. They can do casting and supporting roles as well, as they really get the ball rolling for that. 2024 is going to be a big year for Hollywood scheduling just overall, but we didn't actually anticipate that to severely affect The Mandalorian Season 4. The title characters played by 2 stuntmen who are solely dedicated to Star Wars, and even some of the main supporting actors like Katie Sackhoff, Carl Weathers, and Emily Swallow aren't working on a lot of other things elsewhere these days. Giancarlo Esposito could be an exception, but even if he is coming back, as Moff Gideon makes his 4th return at this point, which we don't know, he usually doesn't spend a lot of time on set anyway. Next up, we have Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Star Wars Skeleton Crew is going to be the next big live-action Star Wars show in addition to the Mandoverse. John Watts' Star Wars show has been one of the big mysteries of this year. Lucasfilm had insisted since it was announced up until this summer that it was set for a 2023 release this year, but that seems to be no longer the case. The show was removed from Disney Plus's scheduling on its Q3 earnings call in August and hasn't really been mentioned since. This could either be because of what they wanted to do, some reshoots, or that they were ultimately unable to do because of the ongoing strike, and they just wanted to hold off on it with its overall scheduling, or because that they weren't sure of how long the strike would actually last, and they didn't really want to release it without having Jude Law and John Watts available to promote this. If the issue was about the reshoots, which I highly doubt, they now have a few weeks before the holiday break, which other movies like Deadpool 3 will reportedly be using. If you're a Marvel fan, I have my Marvel channel linked in the description down below. Filming and using the volume technology allows them not to care about continuity issues with the weather, for instance, or they would wait until next early year, as they have a bit of a buffer time given Disney Plus has several big releases planned for Christmas and this Christmas window, including Marvel's Echo in early January of next year. If the issue is about promotion, that can also theoretically start right away and have everyone ready for a release in February or March of next year, 2024. And it's not just about Jude Law. You also want the kids, who are the main actors and characters of the show, to be out there and to win over people's hearts with cute videos on social media, of course. Maybe they think that they have a huge ace up their sleeves with this group of young actors and didn't want to waste it because of the strike. Think of The Marvels, for instance, which is coming out this weekend with no promotion from its stars. Yet it initially intended to use their chemistry on the press tour to get people excited about seeing them on screen. Next up, before we discuss any animated projects for Star Wars, I quickly want to talk about Star Wars The Acolyte. The Acolyte was thankfully not really impacted by either of these strikes, writers or actors, as it had just a few days left of its filming by the time that the WGA strike was announced, and had wrapped by the time that the SAG-AFTRA started theirs. It was also too early for them to have impacted the marketing campaign, so ultimately it was affected on 2 fronts. First, the scheduling of other shows, pushing Skeleton Crew into Q1 or Q2 of 2024, probably results in the Acolyte moving into the summer of next year for its earliest release. And second, they probably won't have scheduled some ADR sessions with the actors or recordings for CG characters that they couldn't do during the principal photography. The extent of those is unknown, so we're really not sure of how much it would have affected the whole process, though it's doubtful that it really messed with it all that much, and that the Acolyte's done and squared away already at this point. But there's also the issue of Season 2, which was something that we already discussed here on the channel. That's right, an Acolyte Season 2 already. It would seem reasonable to assume that, much like they did with The Mandalorian in 2019, Disney and Lucasfilm want to strike while the iron is hot and move forward with the planned second season of The Acolyte even before the first one comes out. This is something that The Mandalorian did exactly, for those that may be complaining about it. Remember that The Mandalorian Season 2 started filming while the first one was only on air. So if this was the case and Leslie Headland moves to the second season already in early 2024, then they'll really be able to get the, ball rolling with that. So lastly, let's discuss Star Wars animation. Right now, the Star Wars animated projects that would have been mostly affected by the actor strike would be Tales of the Jedi Season 2. That was announced in April for a 2024 release next year, so it seems reasonable to assume that it was in the middle of its recording sessions. A third season and final season of The Bad Batch is also currently in production, though Michelle Ang did tease in late June that she had wrapped up her work on the series. Could that have also been the case for D. Bradley Baker and the rest of the cast? Not that there's much. Even if they didn't wrap it by July 13th, they probably have just a few days left, and it could be assumed safe and ready for a release date next year. However, animated projects are some that usually kept under wraps until the last minute, it feels, so that the strike may have also impacted other unannounced projects that we just don't know about yet, which would be a surprise for sure, and a most welcome one. But of course, it's hard to speculate on those. So we talked about a lot of things in this video. Let me know what you guys are all thinking in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you guys are all thinking. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.